Would you like to tell me why you came out today?
Yeah, so we've been standing in the rain for like 3 hours now because we know that the president is coming by today to speak with our mayor about issues related to gun violence. We're actually here related to climate change, actually. So the president has a whole range of executive authority that he could use right now. He could be canceling permits for fossil fuel infrastructure right now. He could be declaring a climate emergency right now nationwide, which would mobilize national resources to fight climate change. And these are things that he could be doing without Joe Manchin's support, without Kyrsten Sinema's support, without Congress's approval. So we're trying to push him, seeing as Congress seems to be very gridlocked and nothing's going through, and climate change is literally the existential threat. It's going to end us all. I sound kind of crazy, like that woman from Don't Look Up, but she was right. And, you know, climate change is actually coming for us all. And we just feel that right now, if Biden is not able to get things passed through Congress, then it's time for him to take steps on his own through executive action to end permits for new fossil fuel infrastructure, to declare a climate emergency. Another thing that recently came up was Joe Biden actually tried initiating the largest land lease sale in the history of U.S. government, in the history of the country, to oil and gas companies for offshore drilling. And recently a court just invalidated that decision because they said that when the administration took that decision, they didn't consider the calculations they had about climate change were not correct, and they need to go back and look at the climate impacts of that. And we're here also to try to pressure him to say, don't appeal the decision. Secretary Haaland and President Biden should not appeal the decision. They should just accept it and not let this, extraordinarily dangerous offshore land lease go on. Yeah.
What do you say to New Yorkers who disagree with you and are facing rising energy costs and don't see, the green energy sources as being ready for prime time? Ready to replace the oil and gas and coal that we're using now.
Right. What I would say is, first of all, there's been a long history of misinformation from the oil and gas industry. We've actually traced this back to the 70s, even, where the companies internally knew about climate change and they did nothing about it. And in fact, they put out propaganda saying, it's not a problem, and these other things. So whenever you read something related to saying, energy prices are going to rise if we switch to oil, if we switch to green energy, I would be very skeptical of that. Look into, who is funding this article potentially, who is, sponsoring the article. I would look into those things. In terms of New York City and New York State, we're at a very low level of green energy right now. We're not using a lot of renewables in our grid. So what I would say is, if your energy prices are going up, you're on oil and gas. So it's going up on oil and gas. It's not, in this state, we don't have a very high rate of use of renewables yet. So yeah, if the companies are telling you, it's going up because renewables are bad, that's not really true, because we're not really transitioning to green energy at the rate we need to. So you're not really on green energy right now.
How would you see individual New Yorkers transitioning to green energy, having an electric car, having solar panels? I was talking with one of the protesters here about that. A lot of people see that as just an expense that they can't afford. They can afford to buy a new car and a new energy system for their home.
Of course. Also, I never know where to look at the camera, but I think anybody who wants to make changes in individual lives, buy an electric car, but also cut out meat or recycle more. I really commend that, because I think obviously that shows that you care. But I would also say, if you can't do that you're not in an economic position to afford some of these things, don't worry about it, because this problem is at a scale that is so large that our individual actions are not going to move the needle, right? What we need is those empowered, the really, really somebody like Joe Biden, or the CEOs of companies that are financing new fossil fuel projects, those kinds of decision makers to really make a change. Because right now we're at a point of carbon emissions and global warming where we're almost past certain tipping points that scientists say are very dangerous to cross. If we cross those, we're going to have really, really terrible effects. So we're at a point in time now where switching to electric vehicle or not switching to one is not going to change the outcome anyway. What we need are decision makers to make structural, systemic changes that will once and for all transition our grid to a renewable energy grid, make sure that we're practicing sustainable agriculture practices and so on. Our individual actions, although I try my best to live a good life, I try not to feel so guilty if I'm not able to do, one or two of the things that people say I should do, because I'm just one person and you're just one person, and what we need is all to get together and confront the really powerful forces with people power to convince them and push them to make the really big changes that we need.
Would you like to tell me a little bit about the organizations that came out today? 'Cause I know that you're one of the organizers.
Yeah, so I'm part of an organization called New York Communities for Change. We're a grassroots organization here in the city and Long Island, and our members are low income and moderate income people of color. Historically, we fought for things like housing justice, fighting for things like fairer wages, and we see climate change as, of course, it's different in that, if you don't have a roof over your head, that's an immediate issue, but climate change is also an existential threat to our communities, because when hurricanes come, as they already have, our neighborhoods are the first ones flooded, and we're the last ones to receive enough aid. When there are heat waves, our neighborhoods are the hottest ones, and we don't have the resources to make sure that people can stay safe in cool environments. So for us, climate change, although it's different than some of the other issues we fight on, as in it's not like immediately life or death, it kind of is, and it will become even more so as the crisis gets worse. So that's my organization. We also have wonderful folks here from Extinction Rebellion, New York City. We have folks from Greenpeace. And we're also representing a nationwide coalition called Build Back Fossil Free, which is it's hundreds of groups, and we're all trying to push the Biden administration to take executive action on climate change, as I mentioned in the beginning.
All right. Anything else you'd like to say?
Just that I think, just to reiterate something I already said, I think it's really important to think that there's not one thing that we need to do individually, but that when you think about powerful interests like powerful oil and gas companies that have a profit interest, right, in doing this, and you think, oh, I'm so small, what can I possibly do? I'm one person, even if I never drive a car and never eat meat ever again, it's not enough. I think it is enough if we come together in collective action and in building our people power to confront the power that these powerful companies and the politicians that are supporting them have.
All right. Thanks for talking with me.
Thank you.